This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top questions and struggles. I share what to eat and how to move and how to change your mindset to get the energy and the vitality you want in this second and better half. And today, my guest is Dr. Stephen Masley. He's a physician, nutritionist, trained chef, author, and the creator of the #1 health program for public television. He helps motivated people turn their heart, brain, and sexual performance, tune it up. He is a fellow with 3 prestigious organizations, the American Heart Association, American College of Nutrition, and American Academy of Family Physicians. His research focuses on the impact of lifestyle choices on heart health, brain function, and aging. You are in the right place. His passion is empowering people to achieve optimal health through comprehensive assessments and lifestyle changes. As a best-selling author, he has published several books, 10 Years Younger, The 30-Day Heart Tune-Up, and Smart Fat. Numerous scientific articles in addition to that. His work has been viewed by millions on PBS, the Discovery Channel, and The Today Show. He continues to see patients in public research from his medical clinic in St. Petersburg, Florida, and he offers weekly blogs on his website, drmasley.com, which, by the way, will be in the show notes. So today we are talking, not chewing, the fat. And if you've avoided fat for years, maybe decades, or you're currently cutting out fats and oils to help with weight loss or fat loss, you're going to want to listen to this. We may flip things upside down for you by the end of the show. Dr. Masley, thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here with you today.
And we want the scoop. All right. So help us talk about fat. However, I really want to know, so many experts we have here on the Flipping 50 show have a story and a reason why they're doing what they're doing. Have you got a little nugget to share with us about why you got to be Dr. Stephen Masley and why this topic interests you so much?
Well, I do have a unique background. I grew up, my dad was a surgeon at the hospital, and to see him, I had to ride my bike to the hospital and find him in surgery or in the intensive care unit. And I grew up thinking people went to the hospital to be tortured. I was a little kid following my dad around and, watching them put on all these tubes and operate and all the pain they went through. People worshiped my dad like he was an awesome surgeon. But I grew up wanting to be a doctor who would help prevent problems so people never ended up in the hospital, so they could prevent heart disease and diabetes and prevent memory loss. And I've been really fortunate to have such incredible success with my patients because my average patient literally is younger, trimmer, fitter. They're mentally sharper. Their plaque shrinking. They're losing weight. Their blood pressure gets better. Their cholesterol gets better. We take them off many of their medications and they feel better. That's the most important part. They feel better. And so I really like offering a program that focuses on food, nutrients, fitness, and stress management because it just makes people feel absolutely awesome.
You had me at younger, trimmer, fitter. Yep, I was done. Okay, I'm in. We're totally in. I love it. I love that story about how your dad was, manipulating people and torturing people, and you want to help prevent it. Love it. All right, so let's talk fat. Are there good, bad fats? And if so, what are the bad fats?
Well, Deb, you know this really well. There are bad fats. There's some neutral fats that aren't really as well recognized. And there's good fats, smart fats out there. So the bad fats, the easiest one, let's just pick on hydrogenated fat because we all hate it. So hydrogenated fats, the food industry loves them because they make processed food last for almost ever. You might have to replace the outer box, but you can still keep selling the food if you make it with hydrogenated fat. It's like injecting plastic into your food to extend the lifespan. And fortunately, it is being cut out in some cities, and we're cutting back on it, but it's still really prevalent in some restaurants and in all processed food. So that's toxic. I call it embalming fluid because it's kind of like being embalmed when you eat it.
That's that's strong. I mean, we won't forget that. Thank you.
Yeah. So embalming food and hydrogenated fat. I think everybody should get that. Okay. We don't want to be embalmed and consume fat that turns us into plastic. That's easy. The more complicated one is dirty fat that's found in animal proteins, animals that go to feedlots, where we feed them, GMO soy and pesticide-enriched grains to fatten them up, and all those chemicals like the pesticides end up in their fat. And then they inject them with up to 6 different growth hormones every day that make the animals fat, so they get a bigger market share when they sell them by weight. But the problem is when you eat that fat from those feedlots, the animal from the feedlot, you get all the chemicals and all the fat growing growth hormones. And we don't want that. That's really toxic fat. So that's another fat we want to avoid. And probably the third category is this whole ratio of omega-3 to omega-6, that omega-3s lower inflammation and omega-6 increase it. And we don't want to be overly inflamed. We want the right balance. So we don't want too many. It's not that almost 6 fats are bad. Things like corn oil and peanut oil and soy oil, they're not bad that they have omega-6. But if you don't get enough omega-3, then you end up inflamed. So you have to have the right balance. So those to me are the 2 bad fats, and one we have to make sure we keep in balance. Because if we don't, they will definitely hurt us.
Great. All right. So, of course, what we need to know is what makes a fat smart, and what are some examples? What should we be shopping for?
So a smart fat is one that has clear clinical benefit, not just maybe a lab test on a rat, but, in humans where they've done trials and they fed this and it prevents heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, memory loss. If they've got fats that have been proven to benefit us, that's an slam dunk smart fat. And there's fortunately, lots of them. Like olive oil is a really great example. Adding more olive oil will improves your blood pressure. It helps improve your cholesterol profile. It's good for your brain. And actually, on the studies on olive oil showed that if you add more olive oil, you're sharper, mentally sharper, and it helps to prevent memory loss. So olive oil is an easy one. And nuts are another really easy one. So I like people to get a couple tablespoons of olive oil every day and a couple handfuls of nuts because they're really smart fats. So almonds, pecans, walnuts, pistachios, hazelnuts, macadamias. I love all of those. And you can use nut oils as well. And speaking of oils, like avocado oil is an awesome cooking oil. It really is really nice. It's one of my favorite, and so are avocados. Other smart fats are like the long chain omega-3s from like seafood, wild seafood like salmon and sardines. Those are great. And then, of course, let's not forget dark chocolate. Dark chocolate is a fantastic fat. It's good for your heart. It's good for your brain. What's not to like about dark chocolate? We just have to make sure it's not milk chocolate candy. It's got to be really dark, at least 74% cocoa.
74, great. I wanted that number. Thanks.
Yeah. And then, so those are, because when we've done studies where we give people 74% cocoa, their blood pressure gets better, all these numbers get better, really good for them. So those are just some examples of smart fats. And I'd like people to have at least 5 servings of a smart fat every day because it's so good for them.
Love that. And that helps so much with satiety. Compared to, let's leave fat out, right? We end up having more cravings. Do you find that among people you're working with?
Well, that's a really smart question, Deborah, because when you end up eating these low-fat foods, One, there's no mouthfeel, and you don't, without that texture, fat gives you texture, which makes you feel satisfied. You linger over it. I worked at the Four Seasons restaurant for a year doing a chef internship so I could write better recipes. And fat is always, a really nice thing to add to food. It's just using the smart fats so they help you. But yes, I agree completely with you. When you eat low-fat food, it's unsatisfying. It doesn't have the mouthfeel. It doesn't have the flavor. And you just keep eating emptily, onward, mindlessly. So fat is an essential part of making us feel satisfied and enjoy a meal. And plus, fat lowers inflammation and stops blood sugar from going up. So I think part of your thing about saying it helps with satiety is because it blocks that blood sugar rise after a meal, and you're not as hungry because of it.
Fantastic, which is the whole goal. I mean, there's nothing fun about, depriving yourself, even if you begin it thinking you're eating healthy. It's time to flip that thought. I would love to come back to something that you said about nuts. So I think for listeners, you may have this confusion too. So nuts, am I incorrect in thinking that they do have a higher percent of omega-6?
Well, some do. Almonds are pretty, monounsaturated rich nuts. So, and they also have some of these medium chain omega-3s. So the nuts, I was actually pretty selective in the 6 I picked. I'll say them again: almonds, pecans, walnuts, pistachios, hazelnuts, macadamians. Like walnuts do have more omega-6 fat in them, but they also have omega-3 with that. So they helps balance to some degree. Mm-hmm. And people used to say, I can't eat nuts, they're fattening. But the irony is when they've done studies and they ask people to eat 1 to 2 handfuls of nuts every day, they lost weight. Yeah. Because they're satisfying. You said it right so nicely. They're satisfying. So if you eat nuts like in the late afternoon before dinner, you'll eat less food in the evening because you feel satisfied.
I love that. Can we talk a little bit about coconut?
Please.
So talk a little bit about, so we hear medium chain triglyceride type fat or MCT and coconuts. Is that true of any type of coconut? I mean, can we get that in coconut milk, raw coconut?
Yeah, so good point. Ahead. So almost all the coconut products, whether it's coconut meat or coconut milk or coconut fat, have some MCT oil in it. That's a good fuel source. So at least in athletes, people working out 15, 20 hours a week, they've been shown to have better weight loss if they ate MCT, if they had coconut oil, than if they, had another oil like peanut oil or something. So in highly active people, it helps with weight loss. It's good for immune function. The controversy that comes up is over this whole heart-brain thing. MCT from coconut are really good for your brain. And we've used them in people who have mild dementia, mild memory loss. When we give 80% of them coconut oil products, or MCT oil, even better, the direct MCT oil, it improves their brain speed and performance and helps slow or prevent some memory loss. So that's a really good thing. The challenge is this controversy over coconut products and your heart and the impact on your cholesterol profile and artery function.
Meaning they may actually be a negative on cholesterol?
So they may be. It's kind of an unknown. This is really, I like to research and write articles and write papers and do things, and no one's really looked at this adequately. So we do know that cholesterol raises, so they have many benefits like for athletes and for fuel and for immune function and for preventing infections and for your brain. But for your heart, they raise your cholesterol, typically 50 to 70 points. But it makes your cholesterol bubbles bigger, so they're more fluffy and they look better. So in an advanced lipid profile, you have big, fluffy HDL and LDL, and that's actually a good thing. So even though it raises your cholesterol 70 points, perhaps it might look better in a different way. The controversy is when we've done the limited studies we've done where we looked at artery function, they made artery function worse. And there's just one small study on that. So for most people, I think coconut products are awesome. They're great. Enjoy them. If you have heart disease or if you're being on a cholesterol med and you're having your cholesterol treated, and if it goes up 70 points, your doctor might be inclined to raise your medication dosage. I usually say use the other smart fats and skip the coconut. So
great tip.
I'm being cautious.
Yeah.
I'd rather be cautious than cavalier when we don't have research. So I think coconut oil is great, but if you have heart disease or high cholesterol, I'd skip it until somebody actually does the studies to prove it's a good thing.
Great. Okay. Thanks so much. That was a great clarification. And let me ask a follow-up question. So there is a lot of information out there, whether or not it's correct. So we want to go to you, the guru. What about the fact that, or the fallacy potentially, that medium chain fats or coconut sourced fats can't be stored as body fat and actually help burn fat? Truth or myth?
In between. So it comes from, a lot of people go to that study I told you about on these athletes. So they took athletes who were exercising and they, when they're working out, those people are the ones who've been studied.
Great. Okay.
That's not my average patient.
Right.
So
and that's not our listeners. So that's great. Listeners, pay attention. So, super important.
My average patient is not working out 15 to 20 hours a week. I wish I could, but heavens, I don't have the time. I'm struggling to get my 7 hours a week. And that's, I wish I could get more, but I'm working really hard to get 7 hours. So I don't know for me that there's no way I can say that if I eat have coconut oil in food or coconut milk in a curry, I can't say that for sure that's going to burn fat and I'm going to lose weight from that. I don't think so. I will gain some calories from that food just like if I ate anything else. I think it's good for me and healthy, but I do not go to the point of calling it fat burning fat.
Okay.
That to me is a little over the top, unless you're an athlete.
Yeah.
So those are the only ones I know that can actually make that claim is people who are highly active.
Fantastic. And listeners, I want to clarify. So if you're following on social media, you're reading blogs, or you've read the You Still Got It Girl book, you know that this is something that I preach and teach, that you've got to be a critical thinker when a study comes out saying something. The question is, were the subjects like me? Were they women, perimenopausal or postmenopausal? And how many of them were looked at to know, is there any application that this will have directly for you? So I love that you clarified that. Thanks so much, Dr. Masley. Okay, so what if, beyond smart fats, so we've got the idea now, we need to include them, or we can. Maybe you've been given permission, listeners, to do that a little bit more. What else is smart to eat?
So we do want smart fat, but if you only ate smart fats, we all know that wouldn't be enough. We need other stuff too. And so to me, one of the key things, you get the biggest benefit for your health if you combine smart fat with like fiber from vegetable, fruit, beans, and nuts, not fiber from cereal and bread where you get perhaps a sugar rise, but more vegetable, fruit, beans, and nuts. That's just absolutely essential. Next up would be clean protein like wild seafood, cage-free, organically raised poultry and eggs. If you eat pork, pasture-raised pork, if you're vegetarian, yogurt and beans are great sources of clean protein, organic yogurt and protein. So kefir, which is a good probiotic too. So we want smart fat, fiber, clean protein, and flavor. We're not going to eat cardboard very well for very long. We need to make sure our food tastes fantastic. And with flavor comes spices and herbs. So if you add more spices and herbs, Italian herbs, curry spices, garlic, ginger, when you add those, your food tastes better and it has really potent anti-inflammatory activity. So that's the fourth pillar to me. So smart fat, fiber, clean protein, and fabulous flavor from spices and herbs.
Okay.
That's what makes food taste good.
I'm dying to ask you a question. Now I have to tell the listeners, there's a little inside story. So Dr. Masley and I belong to a group. We were recently at a conference and had the occasion to sit next to each other on more than one or two occasions. And we actually flew together. There's a story behind that. But I want to know, because I met your wife, who cooks at your house?
Oh, we both do.
You both do. Okay.
Yeah, it's who gets home first, usually.
So I'm going to have
I think I'm the principal. My wife would argue here.
Okay.
But I would say I'm the primary cook on the weekends. And during week, she gets home usually before I do, and she starts cooking dinner before I get there.
Can we dig a little bit? Let's do
Sure.
this. So this is really a little sidetrack, but I think this is the juicy stuff. So this is the doctor. He is the expert, and you can hear that he wants to be active and take care of himself. What's a favorite meal or two? Can you share something that you love this is a favorite healthy meal?
Let's see. So, well, this morning I got up and I had I had a shake. Mm-hmm. I'm not dairy intolerant, so I have a lot of friends who are, and they do a rice peat protein shake, but I do whey because I like the branched chain omega-3s, and the dairy doesn't bother me at all. So I did a whey shake. I put in some cherries and some kale, organic kale I'd picked out of the garden. And then I poured in almond milk and I push blend, and within 2 minutes, I had this awesome shake, which I drink on the way to the gym as I'm coming to work in the morning. So that was a nice breakfast. And for lunch, I had some leftover. We had company for dinner last night. And a really nice dish. We had paella. So it was really good.
Awesome.
There was just a little bit of rice, not very much. It was seafood and some veggies and this saffron olive oil sauce. Very nice.
Love it.
And then I had a cucumber for a snack and some pistachios. And dinner, I think of dinner as I usually going to go home and have some, so the night before we did grilled scallops, and we had a really lovely salad with some lettuce and a light vinaigrette with olive oil and sliced oranges and grapefruit in it. And it was really nice. Delicious. And then dark chocolate and then some red wine with dinner.
Fantastic.
That's like a typical day.
That sounds delicious.
I think dinner is like clean protein, double portion of veggies. Mm-hmm. That's for a snack. Usually it's typically I have a soup for lunch, my soup of the week. Some bean vegetable soup. And there we go. And a shake for breakfast. And
every day? Is that shake pretty
probably
standard?
5 days a week. On the weekends, I'll make a veggie omelet or something.
Delicious. Good. Love that. Okay. I want to go back, and you may have answered this, but I know I get this question a lot from women who are joining programs or who are writing in and suggesting, okay, what else about this? And they're avoiding oils altogether. Do you have thoughts on that?
Yes.
Okay. Would you share them? I was thinking it was very quiet over there.
Think about it. Your brain is 40% fat by weight. Mm-hmm. If you don't eat fat, your brain is going to shrink. How is that good?
Not good. Yeah.
No, I don't want my brain to shrink. And cooking with fat really makes fat. It's nice to, like temperatures though. You should not cook with extra virgin olive oil at high heat. You should not cook with coconut oil at high heat because those fats are damaged. They have a low smoke point and you would damage them if you cook with them. So I like cooking with avocado oil or almond oil or ghee. Those are 3 fats ghee is clarified butter. Yep. Those are 3 fats. And my favorite would be, I use probably 80-90% avocado oil for high heat cooking. It's really healthy. To me, ghee is neutral. You know, the saturated butter fats are neutral. They're not, I can't say they're good for you. I can't say they're bad for you. I don't have any clinical studies to say eat more. But there's the old idea about it being bad for your heart. There is no current evidence to support that butter is bad for your heart. It's probably neutral impact. Sugar, eating more sugar and flour and bread would be a lot worse thing. So oils, I would say we should cook with some oil, and you don't drink it by the bucket, but like put a tablespoon for 2 people when you cook food, and you have to cook it at the right temperature. And I think that's critical. You do not want to cook fat at the wrong temperature and fry it, damage it, and cause problems. So maybe they're just being cautious about the temperature they cook their fat at, their oils at, and I would be totally on board with them over that.
Great. And I think, these are people who may have had cholesterol issues or are at risk for heart health. But I think your point then coming back to it is just clarifying the types of fat that you're using. Be conservative.
So organic butter would be neutral. Ghee would be neutral. Avocado and olive oil would improve your cholesterol profile.
Awesome. Love that. Okay. Some super great tips. So appreciate that. What's the best way for listeners to get more, Dr. Masley?
Well, I try to write a blog each week. You know how that goes. We do our best. But I make an effort to put out some good content on a variety of topics. I read the news, what's current, what's out there. So if they go to drmasley.com, drmasley.com, I give them free gifts if they opt in, and they'll get my blog, and they can unsubscribe at any time, and I'll never sell their name on the list. Promise.
Fantastic. Okay. And
so
listeners?
The easiest way is to go to the website and sign up for the blog. But we try, we on Facebook, I try to do we do questions and answers on Facebook and
nice.
all that.
Nice.
Now,
okay.
Now, can I bring up something from our meeting at the last minute?
This sounds a little ominous, but I'm going to say yes.
Well, I thought you had a fantastic workout routine in the gym. Oh. So I was there, I was doing my aerobics, I went and did some strength training, I did a little stretch at the end, but I was noticing you have an awesome workout routine.
Well,
how did you work that out?
Well,
30, how did you come up with it? I was thinking, wow, that woman knows how to work out. And then I found out I was sitting next to you, and I got, we got chatting and talking and all that. So, but you had me impressed in the gym.
Well, thank you.
I'll tell you.
I appreciate that. And I always love, when we're at conferences, how this goes because you're one who's in there, but it's always fun to find out who does get up and go to the gym before the meeting. Love that. Shows a lot. All right. So I usually finish with one question that I ask every guest. And that is there a question that you wish I would have asked you?
Okay. What do I wish you would have asked me? How about, what's my next, well, I got so many, but I'll go with my next project because I'm really excited about my new project. So
great. Okay, share.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, please do.
So I've been working on, in my clinic, we measure cognitive function, brain function. And the biggest health crisis we face today, I think in the Western world, not just the US, but all across the Western world, is increasing memory loss and cognitive dysfunction. And I got excited about this. I went and did literature research, and I read 1,500 scientific journal articles, and I wrote a book, and I'm really looking forward to my brain program coming out. So by December, January, I'll be all set to launch a new book, The Better Brain Solution, on how you can improve your cognitive performance by 25% and help prevent memory loss, the biggest crisis we face in healthcare today. And I'm really excited about that coming. and what that's going to mean, and how not, anybody with the brain should want to improve their brain performance. Who wouldn't want to be mentally sharper, quicker? So I'm just so happy to get to participate in this and making progress and moving forward.
That is exciting. I'm sure listeners are excited, not only for themselves, but like me, many of my listeners I know have aging parents, and it becomes a little humorous sometimes and a little disheartening at others. So this is super important. Love it. Dr. Masley, thanks so much for being here. And listeners, if you have a question, please leave it below the show link at flipping50.com. That's all spelled out, no spaces, no numbers. I love hearing from you. And if this episode was helpful, please leave us a rating in iTunes and then share it with a friend. Surround yourself with a supportive community of women on the same journey. To get the most from this week's episode, check out today's show notes at flipping50.com/podcast, where you'll find the juicy free downloads and the resources and links to our guest mentioned on the show. Let's start Flipping 50 together.